Yes, sir.
So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from. You're welcome to this week's FX Outlook with Great White FX. So, before we start, we're going to start off with the economic calendar. Looking at the economic calendar, we seem to have some high impact news going into next week. But the major US news starts from Wednesday. We have Canadian news Tuesday. Monday is calm. Monday might be calm, not much of a news driver. But we have AUD monetary policy meeting minutes. Then we have Bank of Japan policy rate. And that's just basically it for next week. We have final GDP for US on Thursday. And then consumer confidence, CB consumer confidence on Wednesday. So that settles it. So we're going to start off as usual with the US 100. From the US 100, we're going to go to dollar index. From dollar index, Euro USD, GBP USD, gold, Euro, pound, pound yen, and Euro yen. So starting off with the US 100. The US 100 is still bullish. Structure wise on all time frames, it's still pretty much bullish. Looking at it from the daily, if we drop down to the 4-hour time frame, it's still very bullish. If we go down to the 1-hour time frame, it's still bullish. But if you go to the candles, this is where there's a little bit of concern. This move didn't make a new high. It only spiked liquidity here. So if we drop down to the 1-hour, for this to continue bullish, since this low didn't make a new high, there's a possibility this may come down before continuing to the upside. That's what I believe. It's still bullish, but either it may come down or we might see a bit of a consolidation before a continuation. Because if you look at the weekly candle is just slightly below this significant swing point here. It just tapped it a bit. So we might see a bit of a retracement and a continuation to the upside. That is provided we don't get something like this. Price does not attack here, get rejected, put in something like this, then it's going to really drop. So we'll prefer a bit of a retracement. Then we'll prefer a bit of a retracement than something like this to take price back up to the upside. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the dollar index. The dollar index is still bearish. Structure-wise, it's still bearish, but we might be seeing a bit of a retracement. Structure-wise, the dollar index is still bearish. Remove this. Look at it from the daily. It's making new lows. It has broken the previous low on the daily. If we look at it from the 4-hour time frame, we have this move down, broke this low. If we look at it on the 1-hour time frame, well, the 1-hour time frame price is within this structure point. So we might see a bit of a retracement if this structure point holds. So let's move to the candle. So that structure point I was talking about is here. This is where that structure point is. So it might cause a bit of a retracement if price does not gap above it. But if price doesn't gap above it, it might cause a bit of a retracement. And if that should happen, we would want to see something like this to continue to the downside. But I'll be careful of this structure point here. I'll be careful of this structure point, but be it as it may, this pair is still bearish. If it doesn't gap above here on Monday, then we wait for the retracement and then we might see a bit of a move to the upside because we have this fair value gap here. We have this fair value gap here. So if it holds as price, we might see a bit of a retracement for price to move back lower because we have a gap here. So that gap might be a draw. We have a gap here on the daily. If you look at it, there's a gap here. between this point to this point. So if we go down now to, so if price rallies in here and doesn't close above it, get rejected, then we might see further continuation to the downside on the dollar index. But for now, the dollar index is still bearish. So any rally on it might be an opportunity for shorts. So look, the next one we're going to look at is Euro USD. Euro USD is still bullish for now, but I might point out something on the Euro USD. So if we go down to the daily, still bearish. But it didn't make a new high. That's what I was trying to point out. It didn't close above this high. If you notice on the dollar index made a lower high, but this didn't make a higher high. So this is slightly suspect. So looking into this, we might see a bit of a retracement into this daily fair value gap before a continuation to the upside. But this pair is still bullish for now. And see it's sitting within this structure point on the 1 hour. So if I put in my candles, this is where it is on this structure point. So if this, that's like I said on the dollar index, depends on what the dollar index also is sitting at the bearish structure point. So if the dollar index should retrace, should get rejected from there, then this may rally. But I'll prefer this to come in here, something like this. Prefer it comes down here, then something like this to continue to the upside. So the next pair, so if we go to our Euro USD chart, so this is that daily fair value gap. If we look at it on the 1 hour, this is where it is. So if it spikes through here, we'll be waiting for this to hold and see price move higher. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the British GBPUSD. The GBPUSD is bullish, very bullish. If you look at it compared to the Euro USD, he made a higher high on his daily time frame. He had the higher high, as you can see. He has a higher high on his daily time frame. So it just slightly shied away from this swing point here at 82.02 before retracing. So if we go down now to our lower time frame, depending on what the dollar index does, like I said, this may continue. So this is still bullish. Any retracement on it should offer an opportunity for issuance. So you'll be waiting for either a move down, a high, then a break above that high, probably on 1 hour or 15 minutes, then a retracement, and a continuation to the upside or a continuation up. So if we look at this, it's sitting above a daily fair value gap. Pull up my, sorry, let me pull up my daily time frame. So this is where it is. So it might dip in here. As long as it doesn't close below 26.34, it's going to continue back to the upside. So that's what we have on the GBPUSD. It's still bullish. The next one we're going to be looking at is gold. Gold rallied because where it was, like I said last week, if you remember what I said last week, I said it's sitting at an interesting point. So I'm going to look at it again. This high to this low, that's where it bounced off from. As it bounced off from structure wise. If we go into the 4-hour time frame, you're going to see it clearly. This is the area where it bounced from. And I think we have a 4-hour fair value gap, swing, stop hunt, break of the structure point here, and then a rally. But this pair is still slightly tilted to the downside. It's still slightly tilted to the downside. Why? If we look at it on the daily, this last down candle was the last order block that was used to cause the rally. Since it failed and this rally didn't create a significant higher high, because if you look at it, it didn't close above this high. It didn't close above this high. It just swept liquidity there and it's dropping. So going into this new week, if you look at it on the 1 hour, it becomes very clear. We have a shift here. So going into this new week depends on what it does on Monday. It's sitting on a fair value gap and it didn't close below it. So if it should rally into this structure point here and get rejected, you wait for something like this to take it down to this side. But for now, I'm not so bullish on gold yet. Not so bullish on gold yet until the 4-hour can give a very, very clean higher high. We don't have, if you look at this, the last high here. They didn't close above it. It closed above it, but it failed to close. This is a fail. It's like a swept liquidity dropped. This move was supposed to take out this high, but it didn't, and it dropped below the swing low that was used to create the high. So any retracement into here that doesn't take out 2047, then we might see price try to close this fair value gap. Already we have what looks like a breaker here. A low, a high, a low, a low. So it might come in here. If we get in bullish evidence, then we might see it continue to the upside. And the next we are going to be looking at the EURGBP. The EURGBP was a bit of an ugly pair last week. This pair is still bearish, but it's showing some signs of a correction setting up on the 4-hour. This EURGBP, you can see it's still bearish. We have price below all these significant swing points. If we go into the 4-hour time frame, this is where I'm saying that we might be seeing, if we look at it, this is a low, this is a high, this is a lower low, and then a shift here. So this might be a retracement going into this new week as long as this low at 85.49 is not closed below by price. We might see a corrective move on this pair. You can see this pair is a little bit ugly. You can see wicks on both sides, wicks. So it's not so clean a move. And this weakness was what resulted in the Euro USD not making a higher high and the pound making a higher high. Because this drop is weakness on the euro. So we're looking at it, but I believe this may still correct. This might still try to rally to the upside. So if we go into the annotations on the chart, if we drop to the 4 or the 1-hour time frame, you can see the breaker here. Let me look at it from the 4-hour. It's clearer from the 4-hour. You can see the low, the high. So looking at this, we'll be waiting for something like, if this low is not taken out, you wait for something like this, then for a push higher, and that will give euro strength. That will give euro strength. So this is still bearish, but we might see a bit of a retracement. We might see a bit of a retracement on this pair before a continuation. As you can see, it rallied up to the consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap and drop. So we might see it rally a bit, then continue back to the downside. This rejection level on the weekly has been holding price. So this may rally, maybe sweep this previous week's high, then continue back to the downside. So the next way we're going to be looking at is pound yen. If we look at the pound yen structure wise, the pound yen structure wise, is for now he's in a downside. But if you look at it, this was the low that broke this high. And that's where price is now. But price has not been able to make a higher high or change of character from this point. And we've had no significant close here. So looking at this pair, there's a possibility we might see a consolidation and a continuation to the upside, provided we don't get a daily close below 178.11. But for now, this pair is tilted bearish, but it's at a point where you don't want to be taking a long position. So for this pair, once this happens, once they get the close above here, price may rally here, get rejected, drop, and then we might see the continuation on this pair. Because although this pair is bearish, but where it is, it's at a point where you might see a bullish rally. That is provided this low is not closed below. Because as you can see, price will just spike and move back up. But it hasn't made a new higher high yet. So we'll keep watching this pair to see what happens. But once we get it close above 181.73, then you know it's going to come for this structure point here. So that's it for the euro. And if you notice, if you look at it from the daily, he spiked this because this will be very important when you go to the euro yen. If you look at the euro yen is making higher highs. If you look at this low, price is not closing below it. So that's why I'm saying that there's a possibility going into this new week. And we still have this low intact. We still have this low intact on the daily. If we go into the 4-hour time frame, although it has closed below here, but the daily major swing low is still intact. So looking at this, we'll be waiting for something like this. Maybe once you get something like this, then you know it's going to take out this high. If it comes up here, you might see a bit of a retracement, then gone for these highs. Although this pair is still bearish, but the possibility exists that we might see a bit of a continuation back to the upside, provided that on the euro yen, provided the significant low, that is this low, price does not close below it. Because once price closes below any of this low, then this up move has basically ended. So for this pair, any down move that doesn't close here, wait for bullish evidence to continue back into this fair value gap. Any questions?
No, no questions, sir, from my end.
Any questions, Ma?
Is the I had a little bit of distraction when you were doing the gold anyway, so
Okay, let me see if I'll just briefly go back over that gold. Gold had a massive move during the
is
week.
this still bullish or has it started? Because you said if it closes below the protected low, then it becomes bearish.
Now
And it
this,
closed below it,
which low?
2027. It closed below it.
2027. This low?
Mm.
On what time frame? This low here, 2024.
2027. That was what you wrote on this thing on Friday.
Oh. It was a 15-minute time frame.
Okay.
It was a 15-minute, this low.
Yeah.
This low.
So that was the protected low.
That made this high. It did make
Yeah.
a new high and dropped. So that was what I said. And if you notice, it took out all this, then rallied, did make a new high and dropped. So if you look going into this new week, if you listen, maybe you didn't hear what I said. I said this pair rallied, but I'm not convinced of this bullish move. I'm not convinced of this bullish move. What will convince me of this bullish move is, like I said, first things first, it didn't close above this 2041. There was no close above it. If you go down to the 4-hour time frame, that high here, there's a fair value gap here. It didn't close above it. When it rallied, it didn't make a new high. Instead, it broke the low that made this high. So going into this new week, what I'll be watching is to see what gold does within this area. If it rallies in here and gets rejected, then you know that gold is going to try and fill this big fair value gap. Because if you look at it on the daily, there's a fair value gap that is from here to here. So it might try to close it. then continue back to the upside if it will continue back to the upside. Because this bounce was from this structure point. So
Okay.
I wish you thank you all for taking your time to attend. I wish you all a beautiful weekend and a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you,
Merry
sir.
Christmas in advance.
Thank
Same
you.
to you.